Hello and greetings, everybody. Just wanted to hop on and do a quick video to add on to the topic. One of the topics that I've started, I know I'm starting all these different kinds of topics. The topic is, why should it matter? Why should anything related to Indigenous activism and education matter? So consider this part two of that great video. Now, I was thinking as I was getting ready that I've heard a lot of people state that the history of mankind at large is filled with examples upon examples of invasion, of conquest, of all these types of encroachment into other territories of people who are as alien to one another as happened in the Americas and happened in Samoa, in Guam, in the Philippines. The list goes on. However, more than just invading these territories, there were several agendas at play that furthered the empire. And I'm sounding like something out of Star Wars, so I do apologize for that mention. Now, one of those is one that I've mentioned plenty of times, and I will continue to do so, which is called manifest destiny. Now, I'm pretty sure that a lot of us went through this in high school, and sometimes it does make an appearance in the media, social media, whatnot, to kind of remind us, especially if we follow a lot of Native or Indigenous decolonizing pages. Pretty much, manifest destiny is that the westward expansion in the United States was granted and, in a way, permitted by God. The spread of the white man was also the spread of Christianity. So since we are, a Christian nation, or we're striving to convince ourselves and the others that we are a Christian nation, that's pretty much one and the same, in that we praise the heroic bravery with which these Christian missionaries spread Christianity throughout North America, the United States specifically. Now, even though the term does normally refer to the westward expansion of America, as was known back then, it can also pretty much be applied to the rest of the world, since Christian emissaries went out to the four corners of the world to spread this gospel of love and forgiveness and all these wonderful things that were not really practiced, but on the very contrary, the other was practiced. Hatred, genocide. So there was manifest destiny, and pretty much the parent of manifest destiny is white supremacy. These people from Europe have this wonderful religion with them that they are spreading throughout the colored world. And as such, the religion as we know it and whiteness, white supremacy, are tied in and go hand in hand, which is why most images of Jesus nowadays, at least in the United States, I would imagine, and elsewhere, most images of Jesus are a white man with blondish hair and sparkly blue eyes. Why? Because this image of white godliness has been instilled so sternly in us. And I will speak about this in depth, because, like I said, I was raised Catholic. I was at one point Christian, and I can attest to how white supremacy is such a vivifying force of Christianity. Now, as a side effect, as pretty much the reverberations of this forceful introduction of manifest destiny, of Christianity and white supremacy, pretty much the world at large is infected with this white supremacist aspiration, which is why a lot of ethnic pride is on the rise, which is why a lot of people are embracing their melanin, the characteristics that make them, particularly in the African American community, with promoting natural hair, which is absolutely beautiful and stunning. And who wouldn't want those beautiful locks of wavy, curly, or even kinky hair? The melanin in our skin. I know a little deficient, but much love to our brothers and sisters that are of darker hues. So pretty much aside from the invasion, which is going to happen time and time again, the U.S. once stops being, because nothing is eternal. Rome fell, ancient Egypt, the Mexica Empire, all these great civilizations eventually came to an end. So that's not to say that the United States won't as well. As if we make it, if we don't destroy the world before then, not to try to sound apocalyptic or anything like that, but we're pretty much not leaving any other option available. Then we will see that invasions will continue to happen. Invasions are happening as we speak. Now, something that is extremely analogous with U.S. takeover is the Zionist state in Israel. The displacement and mistreatment of the Palestinians, the brown people from the area by these overly European Jews, if not ethnically, ideologically European. That's another thing that with increased exposure to European admixture, not only is your ethnicity or your sense of race diluted in a sense, watered down. A lot of people have critiqued me for saying that, implying that we're all human, nothing makes us less than human, and the whole abolishing mestizaje is pretty much to rehumanize the mestizos who have been dehumanized. So it does seem contradictory. However, with placing our focus so intently upon white supremacy and wanting to emulate it and wanted to resemble a wider specimen and wanted to bring forth wider posterity, when we're doing that, we are purposely relinquishing that which makes us ethnically unique. So what happens with that? Not only is our descendants wider, physically speaking, but the ideologies are also wider. Why? Because you favor your majority. And I might sit here looking like a light-skinned Hispanic. You can see a lot of my, the ancestors that I know and I still have photos of. I wouldn't want to show them for, privacy reasons on their behalf to protect their identities. But we are some pretty brown people that a few Frenchmen or Spaniards introduced themselves into my lineage and made me a little wider and a little more European appearing. Does not necessarily mean that I should abide by that, since the majority of comprises me is in fact indigenous, and I'm proud of that fact. No longer am I seeking to be wider. That's kind of one thing that we all tend to experience from time to time. To me, it happened in middle school. I was placed in monolingual English education. I think it was by haphazardly, an accident. Whereas my younger sister and the younger brother were placed in bilingual. So what happened was that I developed my English a little better, and I would come home and look at the material that my brother and sister had and be like, this is ridiculous. They're, what I'm saying? They're belittling you by giving you these little picture books when I'm over here already reading stuff that is intended for monolingual English speakers. So it was then that I was like, you know what? I'm having English speaking friends. We're talking about shows that we watch in English, whereas my brother's still watching voiced over, shows that were originally English and now are being broadcasted in Spanish for us. I'm kind of liking this. I'm more, Anglophonic, and I'm more assimilated. Well, that didn't last long, or wow, I mean, it kind of did, because in a way, by calling ourselves Latino and Hispanic, we are still clinging to that white paradigm. And as such, we want to be whiter. Why? Because we want to be more Latino. And being more Latino, yeah, it may mean that you're a bit more worldly, because you are, in aspiration of all those modern and chic, elements to add value to your, Europeanized life, if that's even a term. And not to say that whenever you decide to remain indigenous, you're backward. That's another misconception that we have between indigeneity and modernity. Let's move on. Let's be wider. Let's be more assimilated. Let's be more progressive people. Ain't nobody trying to be Indian. Ain't nobody trying to be that ancient, antiquated identity. Well, I got news for you. Indigenous is ongoing. Everything's a cycle. Our indigenous ancients have had wonderful moments of excellency. Yes, a lot of it has culminated with the arrival of the invaders, but that's not to say that the Indian is dead. And I'm just reminded of that saying. I cannot tell you for the life of me who said it. Um, but within every mestizo is either a dead Indian or one willing and ready to reemerge. I know I also distorted that. It's not my saying. I'm gonna look it up and put it in the description or in the comments. All right. And I know I'm always promising that, but I will come through this time because it's a very important saying. So that's why it should matter. Yes, people have invaded one another. Yes, there have been these acts of conquest, of assimilating other people, of imposing your language, culture, and religion over them. Just research ancient cultures. But there's a far more sinister agenda behind the invasion, behind the spreading of the gospel, all these wonderful things that it tells in history books to kind of normalize this type of invasion and whatnot. So that's why it should matter, because we are not backward in embracing who we are, all of who we are. Um, on the contrary, we are actually prioritizing based on what speaks to us as far as our values and the way we want our development to veer toward. That's why it should matter. I did also want to take a few seconds of this video to share. I recently got this wonderful book in the mail, Yellow Medicine Review. And the thing about this book is that I am featured, if you can see. If you guys get the book, I'll also be including the link as to how you can get this book. Not only because my short story is in there, more specifically on page 119, His Beautiful Death. Look at that wonderful tale of a young indigenous man facing life as it's coming to him and the potentiality of life going on or culminating. Just like every cycle, every cycle ends, every cycle starts, but every cycle has a promise of being ongoing. And so not just because my short story is included, but it is very important that on our way to decolonization and re-indigenization, we stop reading that which gravitates us back down to Euronormativity. That was a mouthful, but rather gives us pride and inspires us to be proud of being brown, indigenous, native, aboriginal, aborigine, African American, you name it. Wonderful names out there. They can be confusing and misleading, or they can be something that we embrace in ethnic pride. So just a quick little video. Please leave your comment, and as always, share, and I will be following up in the near future. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as we're coming to this holiday, I'm also going to do a video tomorrow, not in commemoration of Thanksgiving Day, but in commemoration of indigenous contributions to the world that made it possible for you to celebrate Thanksgiving and Christmas in this continent and in this hemisphere. So blessings, and y'all have a wonderful day and weekend and holiday if you guys celebrate it.